What is going on, investors? I'm back again. Time to take a look at Netflix, which just reported earnings in the after hours today. Ticker symbol NFLX. We see during the regular session down 1%, even though the broader markets were up for the day. And then in after hours, we were selling off relatively nicely, although sometimes you see bigger moves in Netflix here. We're down about 5% in the after hours on Netflix. So we're going to jump into why Netflix is trading down in the after hours. We'll talk about some of their subs, some of their financials. We'll take a look at a little bit more of this financial based on region. There's some interesting stuff going in here. And then finally, we'll jump over into the chart. If you've been following my weekly recap that I post on Fridays with all the FANG stocks, you've been following along with Netflix. So we'll talk about that as well. Again, we're down about a little about 5% in the after hours. Now, most of it is due to revenue came in nicely. I don't really think Netflix trades on revenue. I don't think it trades on this EPS, which it traded down from. It's all about the net ads, which is the people that added to, net ads are after you subtract for the people that cancel Netflix, you get kind of a net addition to the people that are subscribing to the platform. That came in at 2.2 million people versus a guidance. So Netflix was saying we're going to add 2.5 million. Well, they only added 2.2 million. I saw some analysts that were expecting well over 3 million. So they missed it on their own accord by about 300,000. But I saw some other analysts where they were nearly a million more net ads that they were expecting. So that is not a great sign for Netflix. Now we see here that they do miss on these global net ads about once a year. They missed it here in 16. They missed it here in 17. They missed it here in 18. They actually missed it twice in 19, but they had this was a pretty big quarter for them that it wasn't that big of a deal. And then we see down here, this is actually one of their lower net ads in several years now. So most people, I think, that have Netflix have got it, and people that want to cancel are canceling as well. We'll talk more about that here in a minute. Let's jump into the revenues here. So we've got 3 months ended here, 9 months ended here. These just came out here in the, just about 20 minutes ago. We've got the June quarter here, and then we've got the September quarter here. We've got a year over year. So here's year over year. Here's kind of like quarter over quarter. And then a 9-month view, we've got year over year. And notice this is a pretty steady business, okay? Quarter over quarter, relatively steady. Even, that's $1.2 billion more, just a little bit under that year over year. That's pretty solid. Now, this isn't like a mega high margin business, okay? It's not like other companies that we look at, maybe like a Microsoft or Adobe or some of these other companies, not super high margins. I mean, these are nice margins, but not ridiculously high. We see they spent about 3.8 to make 6.4, and it's about true throughout. I mean, this is what you're going to expect with Netflix. They spend a little bit of money on marketing, some technology and development, and then finally some general administrative. That gets us down to an operating income. So we made 6.4, we earned 1.3. You actually see that's down from the previous period. So the previous quarter, we made 6.1. So we made about $300 million less, but we actually made a little bit more money. Now, compared to a year ago period, we made, again, about $1.2 billion more, but we squeaked out about 400 million more. So that's nice. We ticked up over $1 billion. You pay some interest and some other stuff, and you get down to a net income number. So again, off a $1.3 billion operating income versus 6.4 million in revenue, we end up earning about $790 million. That's pretty solid for this company. In a quarter, you see the previous quarter, they earned 720, and the previous period, we made 665. Pretty steady business, honestly, with Netflix. I don't want to say they're past their growth phase, because there's always potential for them to grow more, certainly with new content, acquisitions, different types of offerings, but they are past their kind of accelerated growth rate, at least in the phase that they're in now. We see here year over year, nice growth still. I mean, this is over $1 billion on the bottom line. This is really nice. So while I say that their growth has slowed a little bit, it's still really great growth. I mean, we went from about 15 billion up to 18.4. So that's still really, really solid growth, but it's not what you used to see in Netflix when they were really starting to ramp things up, but still an excellent stock. Now, here's some regional breakdown. I want to show you here how much these net paid additions really slowed down. So this is probably United States and Canada up here. We got the paid net additions right here. And so you see it really slowed down to 0.18. So that's really low compared, you see all the way back here. This is the lowest read in over a year. We see here for, this is Europe, I believe, net paid additions was 0.76. Again, way lower than what we've seen just over the last few quarters. We've got Latin America here. We were at 0.26. Again, way lower than what we've seen in the past. And then finally, Asia Pacific, we're at 1.01. Again, much lower than, including half off, over half off and over a third off what we've seen just recently. So that's not a great sign for Netflix. If they're not able to turn this around into the next quarter, you could see more selling pressure on the stock. Now, the stock chart should be familiar. If you follow my weekly series here, we've kind of waved up Netflix. I've put these lines in a long time ago. This is a box where if you want to buy shares of Netflix, I think it's much safer. Anybody buying shares up in these ranges are playing with fire, and we saw today that if you bought in this elevated range, now the stock is trading right here, right at about $495, $496 per share. And so anytime Netflix peaks up, it's really this line in the sand, about $500 per share. Anytime it ticks up over that, I'm not really interested in even thinking about buying the stock, because every time it's peeked its head over there, yeah, it's had some nice runs up there. If you want to trade the stock up into these ranges, I got no problem with that, but you better set a nice little stop loss, because this thing has the tendency to come back down. Now, inside this box, you see, if we ignore these like blow off tops, it's actually traded really consistently, kind of in a wave down in here, and then we're back down in this range, anywhere between 480, call it 485, 486, up to 510. That's not a bad spot. If you got a longer term view on Netflix, I don't got a problem with it. Or if you want to play that pop back up to the upside, that's a potential. Personally, I really like this lower edge. We see how many times this stock has hit this lower end of this range, down in this 470 range. That'd be an interesting spot. That's certainly where I personally would definitely be looking to acquire shares of Netflix in a longer term portfolio, is down in this range. We're still in a little bit elevated range. The first time I would really even think about buying shares, about $10 lower than we're at today. We'll see how the street digests the news in the conference call leading into tomorrow in the next few days. But Netflix is down in the after hours. It is trying to claw its way back just a little bit, but these net paid ad numbers aren't painting a very great story, and they were across the board. It wasn't just in the United States or in Europe or Latin America. It was across the board. People seem to be getting tired of adding to their Netflix position, or it's just anybody who wanted a subscription to Netflix has pretty much already got it. So we'll see what happens in the future quarters. They are projecting about a 20% year over year growth in global paid memberships in the Q4. That is within a range where I saw other analysts and expectations. But if they miss it again in the next quarter, you probably will expect Netflix to trade down in the future quarters. But until then, we're kind of locked up into this box here with occasionally peaks to the upside. I don't think anything's necessarily going to change in the near future. So that's Netflix for you. We'll be back again soon. Good luck with your investments.